Having moved from Ireland in the summer of 1987 to London to live, as I've mentioned, I spent my first 6 months at Hyde Park Mansions, just off the Edgware Road, in a bedsit there. And I loved it there. Those first 6 months were great. And then I fell in with a group of born-again Christians who had a flat on the Caledonian Road. And very quickly I moved in with them and in fact slept on the floor in one of the rooms with them. Most of these people were university students, while I, on the other hand, had moved on from working at the Marlborough Crest Hotel to working at Drake's International Overload, who had their offices at Little Turnstile Lane at Holborn in central London. Well, the short story goes that within 3 weeks of moving in with and finally leaving this group of born-again Christians, as a result of being kicked out of their flat for the fact that one weekend my brother Paul, who was working as a cabinet maker in Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire, came down to visit me in London, and we spent the whole day together. And it being a Saturday, I was out and about with Paul, and I came back to the flat at Caledonian Road and was asked, well, where were you? This is our most important day for the church and you've missed the meeting. And my answer was, well, my brother came down and I was with him and I wouldn't give up the day to be anywhere else if he's coming down to see me. And they told me, well, if you're that serious about being with the church, we will give you the choice to either attend church meetings in the future or not. And straight away I gave them an answer, and I told them, well, I will not attend such meetings should my brother come down again. And hence they were very dissatisfied, and they gave me until the weekend to move out of the flat. And fortunately, I found a bedsit in Leighton in East London. And this is in late 1988. Now, previous to that encounter with the born-again Christians, I spent a year squatting in a house on the Green Lanes, just down from Manor House in North London, with a bunch of international people, quite a few Irish, including my best friend Vincent Walsh. And that went well. I used to go swimming every day at the local pool because we didn't have running water in the house. And as I said, at the time, I was now working for Driggs International Overload, who were an agency who gave casual work. And a few of us from the house went down every morning to Driggs International office to be given work. And it was a case of first come, first served. And the likes of the jobs I did with the agency were working for ILEA, the Inner London Education Authority, whereby I went around with a van driver delivering lunches to primary schools around central London. In the morning, we would go to a pickup point at one school where the meals were cooked. We'd do our round of dropping off the lunches, and then we'd have lunch, one of the school lunches ourselves, at one of the schools, before going around again to all the schools, picking up the empty containers and dropping them off at the starting point again. I also worked for the department store Selfridges, who had a dedicated home delivery service in those days, in the 80s. There were two divisions. The heavy goods division, whereby you could be delivering furniture, or household goods such as that. And the second division was grocery deliveries, which were picked up directly from the store itself in Oxford Street. And I was with, at one stage, a very good driver called Keith Doricott, and we would be serving the areas of Maida Vale and St. John's Wood, delivering to apartment blocks and other private dwellings. And at the time I had bought a very good cassette of music with Chicago's greatest hits, and Keith and I would be in the van going around playing this music and singing along. And I remember it must have been that Easter, I had bought hot cross buns, and something of the day didn't agree with me, and I was sick at the side of the road beside the van. But I recovered, thank God. Another job I had with Drake's was with Transport's haulage home delivery service, and they operated from a depot in St. John's Wood. And I remember going around with Transport's, to places like Chelsea. We delivered one table, I believe, to a house in Cheney Walk in Chelsea. And we had to prepare the room beforehand by rolling back a carpet and installing the furniture and then putting the carpet back, and that was that. Another job I had was as a furniture mover at the Civil Aviation Authority on Kingsway in central London. And what was I doing that day, one particular day, but manhandling on a trolley a set of filing cabinets, and I was on the stairs, the back stairs, and what happened, but this filing cabinet fell off my trolley and down the stairs. Holy God, what a calamity. And yet I recovered from that as well. Now, years later, I returned to work at the Civil Aviation Authority building in the capacity of being a security officer at that stage. And I relate to my colleagues the story of my time before working for Drake's International, and I'm almost certain somebody was still working there from my time when I worked with Drake's years before. So from the time I moved to Leighton in late 1988, my bedsit in a house in 58 Malta Road in Leighton. I took a job around that time working from about March in 1989 at the Cumberland Hotel at Marble Arch as a minibar assistant. And it was during my time at the Cumberland as a minibar assistant that I met my wife to be, and we met in May 1989. Maria Zambella was the girl's name who worked in housekeeping at the time I met her, and my supervisor, Bill Hunt from Barbados, introduced us in the restaurant at the hotel. And in fact, there was a calamity. Coffee was spilt between the two of us, and one was apologizing to the other for the occurrence of the spillage. Well, things went from good to better for Maria and I. Maria at the time was living at a women's hostel in central London, just behind the Portland Hospital off Devonshire Street. So I often visited Maria at the hostel, and Maria came to visit me at the house in Leighton. My job at the Cumberland as a minibar assistant was abolished. It was deemed the minibar service was losing money. Hence, all beverages were removed from the 800 hotel rooms of the Cumberland Hotel, and as such, the service was offered through room service itself. If any guest wanted to order drinks as such, they had to phone room service and get them that way. They were not in the rooms anymore, in a fridge in the rooms. Hence, I left the Cumberland in 1990. having spent a year working there. And I was fortunate enough to attend one Christmas dinner as a member of staff, whereby Lord Forte was the guest of honour that particular year. Lord Forte being the owner of the Cumberland Hotel and chairman of the Forte Hotel Group at the time. It was within 4 weeks of meeting Maria that Maria left housekeeping to work in the reception of the Cumberland Hotel. And over the period of about 11 years, Maria worked in different other departments in administration, in the Bureau de Change, and finally in the accounts department. Subsequently, having left the Cumberland in the summer of 1990, I fell into the security industry. And the first company I joined at the time was Sigma Security, a London-based company, and in those days, officers' uniforms entailed wearing a tunic with matching pants and a peaked cap. And normally we had a clip-on tie with company logo and a white button-down shirt. And we had a lanyard on the shoulder and epaulettes with the name on it. And on the lanyard there was a whistle. We had a peaked cap with the company badge on it. I believe I still have the cap itself from Sigma Security. It was a very good company. Initially, their office was out around Heathrow. Yet, over the years, they moved to Doughty Street in Bloomsbury. Well, to the present day, I have been a security officer. Having worked for other security companies, those being Rentokil Initial, who bought out Sigma Security. I then 2P transferred over to First Security. Subsequently, I 2P transferred from First Security over to Knightsbridge Guarding. And between one thing and another, 7 years ago, I resigned from Knightsbridge Guarding, and I joined Reliance Security. And that operation was going fine until Securitas bought out Reliance Security. So I now work for Securitas Services, the second biggest security company in the world. And how well I'm doing with that, thank God.